Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Good Stuff. My name is Bille, and as always, we appreciate you joining us today. Well, I'm happy today to finally connect with Phil Beckner. Phil is a high-performance consultant. He's working with elite athletes, sports teams, business organizations, and he's the man behind my gear here. So, Phil, man, it's great to have you.
Kevin, I'm finally glad that we can make this happen. I know my schedule has sucked, but I love what you do. Love how many people you serve and impact with this podcast. I think you have a great way about yourself, a great mission behind it, and really grateful to join you today.
Thanks, man. I actually wore this sweatshirt a couple episodes ago, but I had to bring it back out. So, hey, I want to start here. I want to start by just I want to let everybody know you've had a couple of different roles. And I love talking about this journey a little bit with people, but you were a good player. You were a coach. Obviously you're doing the development side now. At one point you were a high school teacher. In my opinion, I would say that the best coaches are the best teachers. I'd like to know just how that role, with everything you got going on, like we just talked about beforehand, how did that impact you?
Yeah, that's you kind of threw me a bone before this and let me know, that this question that you'd be throwing out there to at least kick off the podcast. And here's what I'll say. When you ask me that, I talk about it some, being a teacher, and I've also coached at every level, like junior high, high school, college, professionally. But being a teacher, I think, is the ultimate separator. When we mentor other coaches, and when coaches come to Phoenix for our clinics or our mentoring group that we do, we have 4 disqualifiers for elite level coaches or elite level leaders. And the last disqualifier, and I think it's the hardest one to get better at, is a lack of teaching. People who can't teach the game, or people who can't teach people how to work. And going back to your question, I was a high school teacher for 2 years. I was a PE coach and a weight training teacher and a health teacher. So in the classroom, in the weight room, and on the court. And what you learn is phenomenal, because there's 2 things. One, I think classroom management skills, and then 2, communication teaching skills. And I think if I didn't have that experience and went through the College of Education, I wouldn't be where I am today. Because there was a book, and knowing your question was coming, it made me think of this book, and I need to go back and revisit. You might have heard of it, but it was by Harry Wong, and it's called The First Days of School. Okay. And all it teaches you is how to teach and manages your class and put procedures in place. And because of that, I could run a better basketball practice now. I could run a great clinic now. And I always say, if you think you could work out 2 or 3 guys, that's great. Try to work out a class of PE students with 42 kids. And when you blow the whistle, to get them to stop and listen. Or 35 kids in a health class, and they have to share textbooks. So that experience, and especially doing it right out of college, was probably the most valuable foundation I could have had building my coaching career.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Hey, I want to get in also, before I forget. I could have went here to start, because this is how you start your morning. We talk on here a lot about habits. And I've heard you talk about your 3 filters to start your day. We talked about a little bit once again beforehand, not maybe completing some of those every day. I want you to talk about your 3 filters, what they are, and then how important is it to you? I just heard something the other day, Phil, like consistency over intensity. And that kind of let my shoulders come down, because I'm so intense all the time. And when I miss a day, kind of like we were talking about earlier, it's like I feel bad. So talk to us about that and see if any of that resonates with you, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my growth throughout my college coaching career, I had a lot of ups and downs as a leader and as a coach going through those. I think sometimes, I did really, really well reaching and coaching the players, or really well connecting and communicating with our staff. And then there were times I did a very, very poor job of it. And I think what happens whenever we face criticism or whenever we face challenges, we always look outward for a solution. Like, what's the next book I could read? What's the next person I could connect with? Me and this coach need to get on the same page about our closeout technique. And I come to find that if you really want to shore up some of these issues, or you really want to do better in some of those areas, You got to look within, and it starts with yourself. And this phrase, I just kind of said it one day when I was talking to people, like when I have good days or great days, it starts with how I start. And a light bulb just like, that was a staple phrase, quote, mantra in my life. It starts with how I start. And how I had to start and really work on myself, I had 3 filters. And we know what filters do. Filters keep the bad stuff out. We talk about this with players all the time. A water filter is going to make your water more clear, more pure, more healthy. So mine were simple. Read, pray, and run. Read is like what I'm feeding my mind, what's going into my body. And some now, podcasts, somewhat a form of reading, listening to podcasts, like what we're putting into our mind, our body, our soul, that way, by reading. The other part is praying, believing that I'm not in control of everything, that I got to depend on God, that I got to depend on other things to have a chance to be successful. Obviously, you and I were just sharing how bad of leaders and parents we are, at times helping others. But man, I got to be able to pray, and have help there. And then the last part is run. And that's just some type of physical exercise, movement. Now, it's real popular on social media. They're like, did you drink water today? Did you move your body today? Like really moving my body. Those 3 filters help me so much start my day great, puts me in a good place. And I think the obstacle that most people run into and why they don't do that is because they're putting other people first too much. Like, oh, I got to go help Dame. I got to go help Mikkel. I got to go help this guy. And I found if you want to help those guys more and you want to be better at helping those guys, you got to take care of yourself first. So it starts with how I start. And I'm going to put those 3 filters in place for me to keep all this bad stuff out.
Yeah, that's really good. I just want to provide a little insight on my end. I think you're not saying these 3 are the end all, but anybody that's listening, I think you got to find out what fits you and obviously what works. I mean, I resonate with everything except for the running. I know with my days when I have that quiet time to start off, I'm much better. And I'm going to play this back for my wife because I couldn't do what she does every day. And I mean, that thing is like empty, and I think it's a matter of filling it up. And I think the other thing I challenge people with, Phil, is that, this thing gets empty throughout the day. And like, I got to go to something next where I got to fill it back up, whether I'm taking 5 minutes on the ride to pray, whether that's, a quick podcast, whatever it is for you, just do that, because I agree. It may sound counterintuitive to people, but you're not being selfish by taking care of yourself. And the next point I want to kind of transition to is that self-awareness. I think that's huge. And I think that's developed through things like you're saying, these filters, for example, some of them. Why do so many people struggle to have that self-awareness or lead themselves?
I think number one is a deep feeling of being inadequate. Like a really deep feeling of being inadequate. So many people, and when you read all these leadership articles, or you go to all these, like, I'm lucky to get to go to all these different places. One of the main reasons leaders, coaches, people get fired, other than just not being good enough, making enough money if you're in the, the business world, or winning enough games if you're in the sports world. But they always say it's a lack of self-awareness. You look at these people getting fired, there's a lack of self-awareness. Well, okay, so if it's a lack of self-awareness, that means someone's not willing to look within. I think they don't want to look within because then they think they're not good enough. They don't have a level of self-security to say, like, hey, I might fall short in some of these areas and I need help with some of them, or I need to grow in some of them. And it's the same thing coaching players and player development. I always say that the 2 things that hold back most young players or players trying to make a jump in their career are insecurity and immaturity. People who are insecure can't take feedback. They're not self-aware because they won't allow themselves to be self-aware. And it's just a deep-rooted feeling of like, man, I might not be good enough. I might not be able to get this done. And because of that, they lack that self-awareness. Or like my mentor, Rod Olson, says, like, they have blind spots and they won't allow anyone to identify them. Or if someone does identify them, they're not going to believe they're true.
That's good, man. That's really, really good. I'm anxious then to transition over, because I think a part of that, the fear and the failure, I love to talk about the failure piece in terms of you and even the players that you're dealing with. I mean, your senior year in college, I mean, you guys won 2 games and you lost 27. Like, what was that like? And then what did you learn from that process? Because I bet looking back, I don't know this, we've never talked about this, obviously. I got to think that had a great deal of impact on you eventually in a positive way, no?
Yeah, tremendous impact. Well, what it did, and I know you're a big standard guy as well. I think what it showed me about myself as a player, you know, we went 2-27, Kevin. We didn't win a game second semester.
Oh, man.
Like second, so we didn't win a game. We didn't win a game in conference. Like it was unbelievable. So you could look at it and blame it on your coaches, your program, whatever. Now, you know, I just turned 39 in November. I look back and I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot, you know, about our coaches, and I learned a lot just about our program as a whole, our teammates, you know, everything we did. And what it really showed you, and I know this is a little bit of coaching cliches or whatever you want to call it, but it showed me what not to do. It really showed me, and think about it, to go 2-27, we probably screwed up every single thing of what not to do. Mm-hmm. A guy getting arrested for drinking too much, a guy stealing something, a coach who would go to the, you know, bar with the player, maybe, you know what I mean? The young GA, like just stupid stuff going on that shouldn't have gone on. Me being a bad leader when a guy would check into the game and me confronting him the wrong way. Yeah. But I do want to hit this. I think so initially you go 2-27, you lose a lot. You know what not to do, but it created an unrelenting standard in me as a coach and as a leader. Like there are certain reasons we did a bunch of dumb crap. And now as a coach, I'm not going to let players freaking do that. Right. And I could tell like, no, this is not going to work. Or as coaches, like, we're not going to do this. And that, like, I always tell, you know, my assistants who work with me, I have a small staff in Arizona, our players, like, we're never changing the standard. The standard is set. And I think what really, really good coaches do, and learning from that experience of losing a whole bunch of games, it has to be a standard, though, of what everyone's capable of doing. And you're capable of doing it if it's something that requires a choice. So like our standards, be on time, say thank you. You know, when you take coaching, you got to give us verbal or nonverbal feedback. You say yes or no, or a nod your head, or a thumbs up. Like, those are all things anybody could do. So it comes down to a choice. And there's a major difference between making bad choices and making a mistake. Mistakes like, oh, I forgot my phone. That's a mistake. Like, oh, I turned left when I was supposed to turn right. Like, that's a mistake. I could choose whether to say thank you or not. Mm-hmm. I could choose whether to show up on time or not. And those are the standards that we're going to be unrelenting on.
See, one of the reasons I have the podcast, Phil, is because as we were talking about, I just play what you say to my kids, and then that makes me a better parent. So thank you very much.
Okay, so to say that, and again, I'm a really authentic guy. The choices versus mistakes. You know, I told you I just adopted a 17-year-old 6 months ago.
Yeah, right.
That is the exact last 2 weeks of our life. He's like, I keep making mistakes. And he's had a tough life. He's lived in a group home. No. These are choices, and these are not acceptable ever. These are mistakes, and I got your back, brother. Right. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's good. It's just chiseled to the rock, man. Hey, be better, be different. I love this. How did you come about this? But I really want to know, like, in terms of authentic, like, what does this mean to you?
Great question. Be better, be different is something. It's been a big part of my life and my coaching career for, man, I don't know how many years now. And I think how it's grown the right way. It's grown for the right reasons. And that main reason is one word: impact. Like, we actually have an impact shirt now on the website. It's sold out. Like, you can't, but like, it's for impacting others. It's for impacting your career. And here's the history of the message. It's actually a really cool story. So when I was at Weber State, I was coaching for free. I started like as the ops guy, but I wasn't paid full time. I heard about this great, super top secret clinic in Florida, Larry Shyatt put on. I begged my way into it. I said, I'll pay my way, but like for some reason, Coach Shyatt let me go. About 3 years into the clinic, he kept letting me come back. We're on this run at Weber State. We're just crushing everybody, but we couldn't get over the hump and make the NCAA tournament. We also had this little guard there who was a pretty good player at the time named Damian Lillard, which we didn't know how special he would be, but he was trying to figure it out and get over the hump. And so Darren Horn, who coached at South Carolina, I believe, he got fired. Great friend of mine to this day, and he knows this story. But he spoke at the clinic. And the year after he got fired, he spent the whole season going around and just watching teams practice, teams play everywhere, basketball, other sports. He did some TV games. And he started off his clinic talk. And like, Kevin, I swear I can't remember his topic, and I can't remember one thing he talked about that day, because he said this phrase, and then a light bulb went off on my head, and I just took it and ran with it. He goes, I watched all these teams practice. I watched all these guys play. The people who win, they're just either better than everyone else or they're just different. And then he just kept talking. I don't remember a thing after that. I was like, that's it. We're at Weber State. We can't get over the hump. We're better. We got the best arena, best, but like, we're not different right now. Damian Lillard, he's not going to be better than Kyrie Irving coming out of Duke or Russell Westbrook coming out of UCLA. So we got to be different. And what we always say now, and I just started, being better is an advantage. We all have certain strengths that make us better. God-given gifts. Every single person has them. We got to maximize those gifts. Giannis, it might be his athleticism and size and body. Right. Kevin, it might be his work ethic and his sheer determination. Well, you're better. But now we want to be different with our levels of humility, our levels of commitment, our levels of consistency, levels of how we treat others, those type of things. So we always say being better is an advantage. Being different is an advantage. And if you're ever both, you have a chance to be elite. And to wrap this up, here's what it turned into. I've told players this forever. About 3 years ago, I got the main guys I was working with wristbands. I just made them, and I'm wearing one right now. It says, be better, be different. Mikal Bridges wears it in every game. Lou Dort would wear them in OKC. Like, I gave these NBA players wristbands, and Kevin, you would have thought I gave them a Mercedes. They were like, this is awesome. So then I got them hoodies made for Christmas. We had extras. People saw them. Like, they sold out like you wouldn't believe. We make $0 off of Be Better, Be Different merchandise. It all goes to impact others. Now it's turned into a full nonprofit. We just adopted 2 teams in the Phoenix area to mentor them, to share the message, to impact them. We're doing stuff with group homes out here. We did something for single moms at Christmas. Like, our players and people got behind Be Better, Be Different. Because again, this makes us better athletes or performers. But we raised about $8,000-9,000 for just single moms at Christmas, just to be able to get them gifts or pay their bills or whatever. And we partnered. How about this? We partnered with another nonprofit in Phoenix, St. Vincent de Paul, and they turned that money into about $25,000. Wow! Because they would call, and a mom's 4 months behind rent, but since we paid 2 months, they just waived all of her rent for 4 months. So that's the definition of being better and different. We want to do it on and off the court, on and off the field, and we really want to impact people at a high level.
That's great, man. That's good stuff right there. Thank you for sharing that story. And the crazy part is, we haven't gone into much detail. I was in attendance. Shy was best friends with a guy who mentored me. I was 25 years old. I took a head job, and I went to that Florida clinic every year. And then, they had LeBron James stuff up in Akron. And so Shy's like, hey, Billy's staying in Stowe, Ohio. It's 10 minutes away. You want to drive him around for the day? Sign me up. Like, it was right off my exit, 2 minutes away. I'd pick up Billy, and so to this day, those guys, and Donnie Jones, all of those guys, that clinic, man, that clinic was unbelievable. And it's so funny because I went back and looked at like I think when we talked like 6, 7 months ago originally, I saw your name on the roster. So yeah, those clinics were awesome because it wasn't just X's and O's and basketball. There were so many other things, and I still think the best lobster mac and cheese I had was at that restaurant we'd go to the night before.
Oh my God, no question. The food was, and they pay for it all. But that's what I think too, and why we do so much of this stuff, whether it's to Be Better, Be Different, or podcasts like this. Larry Shyatt is tremendous. Like the amount of coaches he has impacted, not only who have worked for him. Could you imagine? Like if I didn't go to that clinic, I would have never been hired by Sam Presti in the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah.
But and like you've heard this, like and not just to say it like because Wyoming Cowboys Shyatt was there, but I just always say there's not a lot of good Cowboys left anymore.
Yeah.
Like Larry Shyatt, like I think he wanted me and several other younger coaches there because he's like, we want these guys to do it right at some point, who aren't going to cheat in college basketball, who are going to do other clinics, who are going to help other GAs. And I think what Larry Shyatt did by that, could you imagine if we went back and looked at all the rosters, the growth, and I'm not talking ego or logo, but like Shyatt has impacted so many others just because he's willing to serve and help them grow. And it's an amazing deal.
Yeah, he's amazing. He is. And in fact, I hired a GA from a high school in Wyoming because of Shyatt in that clinic. I met him there 2 years later. He's my GA at the college. So yeah, unbelievable. Hey, you work with high level athletes like we talked about. Obviously, a lot of people will recognize Lillard's name. What would you say? You talk about conviction, standards, accountability. Are those the things that they're better at than anybody else, or would you add anything to that, or just want to talk about those three things?
What did you say? Convictions. What else did you say?
Conviction, standards, and accountability. I've seen before.
Yeah, I think I have the best job in the world. One of my good friends is Mark Dagnall, the head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now we work together in the G League. He was head coach. I was his assistant. And we texted each other a few weeks ago, and I'm like, Coach, I have the best job in the world. And he's like, no, you don't. He's like, I do. I think whenever you're in a place of like, you could say you have the best job in the world, it's a unbelievable experience. And mine, I think, is so good, not because I'm great, but because I get to be around the great ones. Yeah. And you truly learn. Like I'm around Mark Lowry right now, who is an entrepreneur, CEO, just bought the Minnesota Timberwolves. A guy like Damian Lillard. I just worked this past season with Oregon football and Mario Cristobal. Congratulations to him. He just took the Miami job. But you hit on two of them, conviction and accountability. But before conviction, these guys have a hunger and drive like you would not believe to just do something or be someone great. And like, it's a drive, Kevin, that you could literally feel when you're around them. They don't have to talk about it. Like it is a presence. It's an energy where they are like Mario Cristobal. Let me sit in a staff meeting with him. And the way he led that staff meeting I'm like, this guy has a mission. This guy has a vision, like in his life and in his program. And I think you have to have that before you have conviction. Because if you don't have that mission or bit like of who you want to be, where you want to go, how, like these individuals really, really, really have that. But the next part you said, and this is what I think is lacking so much. And I think it gives me a great opportunity in my profession to separate myself, is that accountability word. And it's not so much personal accountability, like Damian Lillard, Mikal Bridges, and I'm not name dropping. I'm just saying, like, I work with the 76ers, and the great ones seek accountability and allow themselves to be held accountable. And it might not always be instantaneous. It might not be right away, but it's like, man, they will let someone else hold them accountable. Yeah. They want to get better. And here's a cool story about accountability. So Mark Lowry, his business partner is Alex Rodriguez, right? Mark Lowry has hired me to teach him how to shoot the ball. He wants to learn how to play basketball and shoot the ball since he owns the Timberwolves. He does a workout, with us however many times a month. Alex Rodriguez is in town, Hall of Fame player, one of the, the greatest, right? Great baseball players of all time. He jumps in the workout. And I'm like, Alex, do you really like want to do this stuff, learn this stuff? Or he's like, yeah, like just coach me, just do it. I'll jump in. So he's doing ball handling, he's doing shooting. And Alex played in high school. He said, and I showed him how to use his legs with his jump shot. And Alex is huge, like he's a big time athlete. And I'm like, brother, I go, you're a Hall of Famer. Do you really want me? He goes, Phil, I love being coached. Keep coaching me.
Love it.
And I was just like, this dude's willing to be held accountable, willing to be coached. Like it's just amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. You also would say like high level truth tellers, high level accountability. Why do, there's players out there that you've worked with or that you know of that refuse this? Like what is it, why do they refuse it? And they're not then having the ability to take the next step in their careers, and it's not correlating, no?
Wow, that's a really, really good question. Why do they refuse it? I think a little bit goes back to what we were talking about with the previous question. Deep down, they don't want to look within. I think there's a level, two things. One, a level of maturity that you have to have. And maturity comes with growth. It comes with experience. It comes with the people who have raised you and the people who've been around you, the previous voices you've already heard. And the second part, I actually talked with a couple NBA teams about this offseason, going through pre-draft stuff, because some of those kids in the draft, I had coached at USA Basketball. Some of them I've had in pre-draft training. And I use one phrase, like, some of these guys are full of poison. They have so much poison in them that and Craig Rochelle said this from Life Church in Oklahoma City. It's like they've had so much poison in their system and so many lies in their life that when they finally hear the truth, they believe the truth is a lie. Like they truly, truly believe that, Kevin. And that's where it comes with, you have to find a level of compassion as a leader or a level of understanding to try to reach them. But like, Kevin, what color's the sky? Blue. What color's it? Oh, it's blue? No, yeah. It's purple. It's right. Purple. I believe they have told me it's purple. My AAU guys have told me it's purple. My coaches have my mom's told me it's purple. Kevin, you are wrong. Even though the 100% of the world, these guys have no chance because they have so much poison in their system. Then going back to, you can see how this stuff aligns, and especially progressively how we develop players or organizations. That's why you got to have filters in your life. What do filters do? They get the poison out. They keep the poison away. And there's a lot of kids in basketball and a lot of players right now. They have so much poison, like that they have no chance to be good. They're just, they're sick every day. They think they're on a healthy diet. They're actually consuming more poison. And one of the NBA guys said a great deal about my evaluations. He's like, Phil's on this poison kick. This guy's poisonous. This guy's poisonous. He goes, this guy has some poison, but he could be vaccinated. He has a chance.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's like you don't necessarily see that, right? Like if I'm eating pizza for a month straight, I might not see that till the end. Or the flip side, if I start lifting today, I'm not going to see the results tomorrow. And so it takes me back to, like, I always felt like a coach. I would say when I was younger, hey man, I'm telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. But that's hard for somebody to correlate, right? I mean, let's talk. You touched on a little bit with humility earlier, to standard. I think that's something I've gotten from you in general, and just following your path. And I think all of us are humbled from time to time. Like, what have you built into your life, in general, when this happens, if it has happened, or to prevent, things from happening? Is that where you're rooted in faith? What is that for you, Phil?
Yeah, I think I have been humbled. I've made a bunch of mistakes in my life, and in my coaching career. I tell the story sometimes. When I left Boise State, I was 35 years old. I was associate head coach. We just helped, produce a first-round draft pick from Boise State. Kid went from 4 points a game to 25, and we had all this success, back-to-back great years. And the truth of it, though, was I weighed 158 pounds. I was stressed out every day. I was isolated. I wasn't happy. I was snapping a lot. It wasn't worth it, who I was and what I was doing, both personally and professionally. Those things humble you. Those things really make you look within. And there's a tremendous book. I give it to a lot of coaches now and a lot of people, 2 books actually, but the one, Power of a Humble Life. by Richard Simmons III. Easy read, great book. It's actually the second book. The first one's called True Measure of a Man by the same author. But Power of a Humble Life, if you want to read and understand humility, you got to read that book. And I'm still not perfect at it, but I have a big quote in my office, and it says, all we are and all we have is a gift from God or a result of others contributing to our life. Mm-hmm. So all we are, everything all that I am, and all that I have, my nice car, my house, all this stuff is either a gift from God or it's a result of others contributing to your life. So you know what that means, Kevin? It means I've done nothing.
That's right.
Like Larry Shyatt, we just thought like, man, I wouldn't have been at OKC if someone contributed to my life. Man, God gave me the gift of a great mind. I'm type A personality, probably like type A++. Like God gave me that mind. I haven't done it all. The answer though, and I think this is what, why someone like Mario Cristobal lets me work with him and his staff a little bit. Why, he did certain things with USA Basketball. The thing you got to have in place is a group of mentors or truth tellers.
Yeah.
I have 3 guys in my life who will tell me the truth, good, bad, no matter what, who will help me get from point A to point B. And I'm intentional. I'll say that word again. I'm intentional about using them, finding them, and having them. Intentional, deliberate, done on purpose. It has to be, I can't just be like, oh yeah, hey, my buddy, I'll give him a call because I'm stressed out. No, these guys have mentored me and if I don't have those dudes, I'm not anything.
Yeah, it seems like every episode I've done lately, we talk about on here about, I know for me, like an accountability partner and just having those people in your life. I can't imagine not having one. Yeah, you're talking about Shyatt. We talk about Bille, at the Florida clinic, and this whole humility. And Sam Presti, I don't know him. I've, only, when I went up to OKC when they were in Cleveland here and talked a little bit. Like, what makes them so good at what they do, and what you learn from him in your time? Do you see a lot of alignment between them and these players that you're talking about in terms of the high level leaders? Is there a lot of commonalities, or would you say, hey, there's some different things that they do, Kevin, because of their job or their role compared to, they're not a player, they're a coach, they're a GM, whatever it might be. Does that make sense?
That's a great question. I think when that's kind of like my most fun hobby is like just studying elite performers and being around the best of the best. Like I said, I don't think I'm the best, but I'm lucky enough to be around the best ones, or at least people in our culture and society or sports who say they're the best. What you find, I think there's a level of consistency of a few things they have, whether it's, let's just say like a Damian Lillard as a basketball player, Sam Presti as a GM, Mark Lowry as a entrepreneur, CEO, whatever you want to call them. There's a level of consistency with a few things, but then what makes each guy special is how they go about doing it. Like within their personality, within their DNA, within their background. Does that make sense? So like Damian Lillard's a guy from Oakland, a little bit tougher place. Mm-hmm. Sam Presti's a guy who like is a lot more thoughtful and patient. Now they're all getting elite results and they have some of those consistent traits, but man, they're, like I said, their personality, and personality is a little bit different than DNA. Their personality, their DNA, then like, where they're from, that background, that stuff really affects how they go about it and do it. Mm-hmm. Here's what's, I think here's the good news and the bad news about being around guys like this. They have an extreme amount of intelligence. And I want to write about it someday or put it in a blog someday. But like Sam Presti is one of the smartest guys I've ever been around. Yeah. Damian Lillard is one of the smartest guys. Evan Turner, who I was lucky enough to train, 10-year NBA player, number 3 draft. Like Evan Turner is so smart socially, emotionally. Sam Presti is so smart, probably at everything. That dude's a genius, but also at like seeing a big picture. I'd walk into my office sometimes in OKC and I'd have a note from him and I'm just like, how did that dude know I was struggling and needed a note right now? But like their level of intelligence is off the chart with all these elite performers. Here's an example I'll give you. I say that just in regards to NBA. The guys who don't make the NBA or who like stay in there are one of two things, or definitely both: stiff and stupid. Like they're stiff, they can't move, they're rigid, they can't get better, like, or they're just stupid. And if you're both, you really have no chance. Because all these elite these guys are the best of these dudes are so freaking smart, man. They are really, really smart.
Yeah, I remember just talking to Billy. I think it was that first year when he was at OKC and he came up and he was great. You know, my two boys at the time, we went back, they're getting autographs, pictures, they're loving it, right? And I was just like, what do you like and what's the difference? He's like, Kevin, man, we go into halftime and I can put in 15 things, you know, they just pick up on it and it's like we can run a different play and, you know, so I think that resonates for sure. What would you say as we wrap up here to get into three-pointers, Phil? What advice would you give young coaches out there? You know, a common thing I might ask on here is to go back and talk to 25-year-old Phil. We could probably each do a podcast on itself just with that question. But what advice would you give some of these young guys, not only knowing what you've been through, but also knowing the times that we're in now? Because when you and I coached then and now, it's two different things, I would think you'd agree.
I love that question. And this is you just said 25-year-old Phil, but this is my strategy right now on growing, doing better, performing, climbing the ladder, getting results. There's a great quote: what used to be normal is now the exception. Mm-hmm. I would tell any young coach, find out what used to be normal and go do it, and do it at a consistently high level. What used to be normal is now the exception. Like, it used to be normal to not self-promote on social media. It used to be normal when you were a young GA or young coach to walk in your coach's office every day. I remember hearing this about Greg Paulus. I believe Greg Paulus is a head coach now, but he'd walk in every day. I think he was a GA at Syracuse maybe. And he'd just go, Coach, what can I take off your plate today? Yeah. It used to be like Larry Shyatt did that in his career. It used to be normal to like sweep the floor without the coach at. Find out what used to be normal, because now it's just, and if it's the exception, it means you're going to be exceptional. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really that young coaches, and like I'm trying, what used to be normal, man, we show up on time, we show up prepared, we have waters for our guys, we say thank you, we tip the guy who opened the gym. That stuff used to be normal. Yeah. Now it's the exception. Well, if we do it, now we become exceptional.
It's good. Yeah, for sure. Hey, you're a big time learner here. You've already dropped some good books. We talk about books on here in general. Not that you have to drop any more, but is that as a podcast? How are you learning and growing yourself, not only in your trade, if you will, but just as a leader and as a person?
Yeah, three quick hitters on that. One, books, which I haven't been reading enough yet. Two, we already talked about it. You better have mentors. You've got to have freaking mentors. The third thing I've done, and I swear, and I'd be interested to do it with high school kids maybe, or college kids. I started a list, and it actually, going back to Evan Turner when I was training him, he would just say this great stuff, and we'd have these great conversations. I just started typing it into a list. And if you want to get better, talk to your players, ask them questions. Yeah. You will learn. And maybe they're not the ones teaching you, but like Kevin, you shared that little strategy, the 3 questions you'll do on a note card with your kids. You know, I told you I did it at Boise with some guys. Just ask people that, whether the kids teach you something, like you might teach yourself something from that. 100%. If you talk to your players and ask them questions, that's been my biggest deal now. And granted, you're like, well, Phil, not everyone gets to talk to a Damian Lillard or a Giannis or a Tobias Harris. Like, even college guys, talk to them, ask them questions.
Yeah. I think, honestly, Phil, I think some people don't do that because there's a dose of humility that they could use, right? Sometimes it's that humble pie. And, you know, I had a guy tell me once too, like, hey, just put a pin on the map, if you will. I know those don't exist anymore. And just go within 3 hours radius of your go. I guarantee you. And there, you put a pin in any state. And I know we're focused on basketball, for example, but you're going to find coaches and you're going to learn something. And so I think that's huge. The other one is if you want to learn, just start a podcast because you get a lot smarter and you ask more questions. Hey, who's somebody, I don't expect you to know the whole list here of 74 people, 75 people, but who's somebody I need to get on this podcast that I haven't had yet?
Man, great question. I can't answer that. I mean, immediately my mentor, Rod Olson, came to my mind. He's phenomenal. He's wrote a few books. He's a coach of coaches, but he actually coached. He's the best I've been around. And coaching coaches, leadership, I would not be where I am without him. He automatically popped into my mind. If you gave me more time, I could give you an outside the box one. Those are the ones I love, where you got to really think of someone and like, who's that guy? Then you listen and you're like, holy cow, we want to track that dude down. But I'd say Rod Olson, his stuff is, I buy probably, he has 2 main books. He just wrote a 3rd book, but I bet you I buy 30 of each book a year to give out to other coaches and people. So that's 60 of his books. Like he's the real deal, man. He's really, really, really good.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I'll just text you once a month till you give me other people. How about that? Hey, we're gonna go rapid fire to finish here 3-pointers. So I'm gonna let you knock down some shots here. Take your time if you need to. Number one, if people could just grab hold of one thing from this conversation, Phil, what one thing would you want that to be?
Impact others.
Good.
Can I tell a quick story about that?
No, please go right ahead.
Here's why. Damian Lillard, phenomenal player, phenomenal person. I told this story before, I think on a clinic or a podcast. Here's what makes this dude special. I had just left Boise State. I'm driving to speak at a PGC clinic. I have 3 topics that day. Pick and roll breakdown, because, got all this credit for developing him. Great pick and roll stuff, player development stuff, building a championship culture. I'm in the Uber, 15-minute ride. I text Dame. I said, hey, I'm probably going to speak to over 200 coaches today by the time I get through all 3 sessions. Here's my 3 topics. Give me something great to give them. I figure this dude's going to be like, change pace and pick and roll. Always keep your eyes up. Man, in skill development, always, man, we did this. Winning, you bet. I swear, I just got goosebumps with this one. The phone buzzes. I look at it, it said, impact somebody else. And that's part of how we built Be Better, Be Different. That's why that impact shirt is on it. Like, he just said, I said, I'm going to tell 300 people. He just said, impact somebody else. Like, how special is that, dude? God.
That's high level right there. Hey, number 2, if Phil could have been over here today and been behind the mic and asked a question of him, what question would have you asked Phil that I did not ask today?
Do I have to answer it too, or do I just tell you the question?
I'll leave it up to you.
What is the biggest thing you're struggling with right now?
Good. That's a good question. I already know the answer, so I'm not going to share it with everybody else. Hey, finally, number 3, good stuff is the name of this. What's some good stuff that you would say here in closing, or anything you just feel is appropriate right now in your heart?
Yeah. One, pretty much what you do. And, you talked about your kids, you talked about me. I think good stuff is when good people connect. We're not all going to be great. I think one of the best compliments we could hear in life is like, hey, you're a good man. Like, you're a good man. But like when good people connect, when good people are trying to do the right thing, not going to be perfect. We always talk about, we'll take progress over perfection at times, but good stuff is like, man, just people trying to get together and, trying to get better, trying to do good things. And when you do that, eventually good things are going to happen.
Yeah, I love it. There you go, man. Your jumper's still good, 3 for 3. Hey, how do we, let's get our listeners connected to you a variety of ways here. Social media wise, where are you at?
My Twitter is @Phil Beckner. We do have a Be Better, Be Different Instagram, and Be Better, Be Different Twitter as well. Sure, they could search and find those.
Yeah, high level Twitter game, man. You bring it on there. I love it. Hey, anything else in general? Website, books, podcast, gear, all this other stuff.
The only thing I'd say, Kevin, is, man, we do some great stuff in Phoenix. If people are ever interested in coming out, we'll open up our workouts to, for people to watch. We do a couple kind of selective clinics, where only 20 guests allowed at a time, and we coach them up. But we really want to help the coaching community grow. We really want to help other people grow. So if anyone ever needs anything resource-wise from us, or needs info from us, my email or our company's email, info@develop 2 compete.com. info@develop2compete.com. Shoot us an email, anything we could get you, drills, clinic info. We want to help you guys. We had someone in Alaska write us the other day. They don't have a big budget. Like it's not about making money for it. If we could serve anyone, shoot us an email. Let us know how we could help you, and we'll try our best to do so.
Well, hey, Phil, I just want to thank you, man. I know once again how busy you are. I think we all are. When you make time for somebody else, especially me, I really appreciate it. And for the people that are listening, you made me better today. You're going to make others better. I love what you do. I love your transparency and with all of this. And I think you used the word, but I'm going to throw it back at you. You're so intentional on making others better and serve them. So I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Keep plugging away at this. We support you. Our group, our organization, really supports you because you embody our message. So thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, well, there's so much in here today. As you guys know by now, reach out to me. Good stuff. Kevin@gmail.com. I want to hear what you think. I want to know how you're going to be better. I want to know how you're going to be different. Thank you for joining us. And until next time, good stuff.